Welcome to A Pilgrim's Hearth, a podcast for the mom who needs a short rest in order to feel renewed for the journey. Join me, Kate Wilson, each week as we enjoy something good, true, and beautiful together in the same amount of time that we have to enjoy our coffee while it's still hot. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to A Pilgrim's Hearth. I'm glad you're here. I hope this week has been going well for you and that you found moments of rest in the middle of the journey. Today, I want to tell you a story of one of my favorite women in all of church history. The time will come when we talk about some wonderful men from church history too, but as we begin this journey together, it feels like a good time to tell you about a woman named Monica. She lived in a city in North Africa with her husband who did not know the Lord and did not care to. In the year 354, she gave birth to a son and named him Augustine. She loved him and determined from a very young age to raise him to know and love the Lord, to memorize psalms and spiritual songs, and to know scripture and truth. Her husband did not care about those things, and so the spiritual formation fell largely to Monica alone. And she knew the rich, deep, and true power of prayer. She was a mother that prayed for her son. She taught and she worked, but most importantly, she prayed. Her husband was a smart man and he cared for the education of his son, so when he realized that Augustine was smart and teachable, he sent him to a school in Carthage. I have not sent any of my children out of my home yet, but I can already feel the pull of it. I can feel the tension when I look at my oldest daughter that there will be a day that she goes away from our home and away from what I've taught, and she will have to be fully responsible for the things that she believes and the way that she lives and the path that she walks. So I can, in a very small and only preparatory way, feel the ache in Monica's heart as she said goodbye to her son. And then, as the years went by, and she watched him fall further and further from the truths that she had woven into his heart. For 30 years, she heard news and also saw up close how Augustine had turned away from the things that she had taught him as a child. He walked willingly, happily even, in sin, and yet she never relented praying for him. For 30 years. I am only a few years past that amount of time. My whole life lived in it, in the amount of time that she watched her son say no to the Lord. When I have prayers go unanswered for a few months, I begin to make bold and blanket statements. Perhaps God doesn't hear. Maybe he doesn't care. He can act, but he's choosing not to. And so it could be that he's disciplining me for some unrealized or increased sin. If a prayer goes unanswered for a year or more, I am likely to admit defeat. Maybe just decide that God doesn't actually hear me. Maybe he doesn't care about that. Maybe he has decided not to respond, and so maybe it's time that I just move on. But can you imagine not only the 30 years in which Augustine chose to live his life so starkly different than the one that Monica had dreamed for him, but even the 18-ish years before he had ever even left her home, she was praying. She began praying and kept praying, and even when it was hard, she continued praying. As he continued to grow, he moved to Italy, and there he met a priest who began to speak scripture into a heart that had begun to soften. This man loved him and cared for him and taught him, and only then did Augustine get close enough to allow himself to begin to hear the truth. The day that Augustine was saved, his mother was there, right inside the door, and after his conversion, he ran to her. You can feel the moment, right? This moment for her son that she loved no matter what he did, that she taught when he was a child, that she held when he was a baby, was now the answer to her lifelong prayer. The Lord had answered, and she continued to love him just the same, to pray for him just the same, to support and care for him just the same until her dying breath. Not long after her son was baptized, Monica grew deathly ill. She is quoted having said from her deathbed to Augustine, "My son, I don't really know why I am still here on this earth. The only reason I wanted to stay a little longer in this life was to see you become a Christian before I died. Now God has granted me this beyond my hopes, for I see that you despise the pleasures of this world and have become God's servant." She was a mother who prayed for her son. And because of her prayers, Christianity as we know it today is better understood and practiced because of the things, writings, and works of her son. We don't know what amount of her childhood teaching permeated his thoughts as he wrote and taught and grew in his faith. We don't know how many of the recited prayers that he said in adulthood he had learned at his mother's feet. We do not know how what we do today matters in light of eternity. Monica wasn't perfect. She was just a mom. Her son was not a reflection on her. When he didn't follow the Lord and he lived a life full of rebellion, it was not an indication that she should have done anything different. She was not responsible for her son's actions, for his choices, or for his salvation. The only thing that she was ever responsible for was herself. This is true for you and for me. When we walk into church on Sunday morning and our children do not look put together, share too much with their Sunday school teachers at prayer time, sit with their arms crossed and their hearts hard, it is not because of you. You are not their source of salvation. But you might be a means by which it comes rushing into their hearts. You cannot make them believe or behave perfectly or live faithfully, but you can give them every resource and every hope to do so. You, like Monica, can pray faithfully, continually, lifelong prayers for your children. And after all, isn't that the very best thing that we could do for them anyway? Teach them like Monica. Care for them like Monica. Love them despite any choices that they make like Monica. And like Monica, we can pray for the future of the church that is being built up in and through our children. I hope this story about Monica gives you hope today. I hope it leaves you feeling lighter, knowing that the responsibility for your child's salvation resides solely with the one who created your child. And yet you have the greatest resource at your disposal to fight for the good, to fight for the hearts, and to fight for their eternity. May we leave this hearth today a little bit lighter, knowing the God who gave us our children loves them more than we could ever fathom, and that through generations of his church, we can learn from the moms who have gone before us.